Welcome to the Black Friesian horse, or as I like to call him, kaleidoscope. This horse has lots of color in him, and this painting will use lots of different pastel colors. I'm going to transfer the image onto a 12 by 16, or you can use a larger sheet of light gray pastel mat with pencil. And then we'll get started. Now you can see I've transferred my horse now, and I'm going to start outlining him, reinforcing my drawing with either a Carbothello 750 black pastel pencil, or you could also use the Create-A-Color black pastel pencil, but I am using the 750 black Carbothello pencil. So I'm just going to carefully trace over the lines. He has a pretty detailed bridle with lots of gold accents, which we're going to work on. This horse was photographed at a gathering, a parade of sorts, or festival in California. So the horse and rider were all decked out. The other thing about this horse, because it's a Friesian, they have a lot of hair, a long mane, and generally it covers their eyes. And in this case, you cannot see the eyes of the horse. It's underneath the mane. Because the horse is black, I'm not going to use black pastels to interpret it. I'm going to use lots of color because I love color. So now I'm tracing the bridle, and the circles that you see there are where the gold accents are going to go. And we'll talk about different colors that we can use to paint gold. So just keep tracing over the lines with the black so that you'll be able to see them as we add color. I'm going to speed this up a little bit so that we can get right into our painting. Now we're going to start putting in some of these accents. I'm going to use a general white pastel pencil. If you don't have a general pencil, you can use a Carbothello white. I'm also going to be using a Carbothello 210 orange pencil as well. So I'm kind of looking around. I'm drawing a white line across the top of the bridle area, which when I color it in, the white's going to show through as a little indent in that area of the bridle. I'm also using the white pencil to draw spokes, straight lines out from the center of the gold ornament. Okay? Now this is the yellow, it's called orange yellow, 210. And so I'm drawing also spokes out in that area. And now with the 210 Carbothello, I'm outlining the little brass piece that the bridle straps go into, and then using the white to add an edge on that leather piece. And I'm also going to use it to make, again, I'm drawing straight down on that. It's going to show through. But I'm going to use the white where the, as the highlight, where the holes are going to be on the strap. So I'm using the black 750 Carbothello to draw the hole, and then the white is the highlight area around the hole that's on the bridle. So it's just a simple way of making that look. And then again, I'm using the white on the edge of the leather. And this will all be show up better and make more sense to you as we go along. So I'm back to the yellow-orange to outline the brass or gold accent on the bridle. And the white on the edge. White on the edge. That's where the light is really striking it. It's also going to make it show up against the black of the horse's coloring. I'm continuing to add the yellow and the white to make the gold accents. I'm also using the white general pastel pencil to put a dot of white in the middle. Now for this central ornament, I put in the white zigzags or straight lines, and the yellow in front of that. A little more white in the center. Putting the white lines on the outside, the yellow in between them. I'm using the yellow, the .210 orange yellow, to add a yellow accent underneath the white that we put, particularly at the top of the bridle and down each side in that area. Putting in a few white highlights into the little tassel that we'll deal with later. I'm using the yellow pencil again, the orange yellow, the 210, to color around this other gold piece of the bridle, the hardware, and putting little white accents as well. Now I'm adding some more accents into the gold brassy colored area of the bit that goes down to the and connects with the rein on the horse's neck. Now I'm using the white general pencil and I'm using the yellow 210 to add the little ornaments on the rein on the horse's neck. So that's how we're going to do each of these little tiny pieces, and then we're going to add a third color, and it's going to really help pop that out and make it look like gold. Now we're going to get ready to paint our horse, and we're going to use three colors. We're going to use Terry Ludwig Eggplant, which is a dark purple, which I'm using now to start the ear. We're going to use Unison Blue Violet, number BV16 for the medium value, and Giraud 331 Blue Violet for the light places in the horse. So now I'm using the Terry Ludwig, and I'm placing the black color, or it's really dark purple, but it looks black. Your eye is going to read it as black. So I'm putting that on the horse's ear. Now I'm going to use this little tiny blender. I go through quite a few of these. And I'm going to blend the color into this area. I'm blending it fairly well, getting it into the paper, and also so I don't smear it around or contaminate another area with color that I do not want. So I'm only putting it where I want. This is the Giraud Blue Violet 331. And you can see I'm putting that on the edge. It's a beautiful color. And I'm going to, on the inside edge, I'm using the Unison color. The Unison is a little bit lighter than the Giraud, and it's a little grayer. It's not as bright. So I'm going to use that to define where the two lobes of the ear meet, and then blend that together with my blender. It really looks nice already. You can see the three dimensions working there. We'll be adding some lighter color as we go along. Now I'm going to use the sharpen point of a new pastel black to go right around that outside edge and sharpen it up. If you don't have a new pastel black, use a Create a Color black lead. I use those a lot. I get little holders for them and use those, but I do love the new pastel black. You can also use a Conte crayon number 2B. And now I'm going to blend that black in a little bit as well. Now we're going to use a Carbothello pencil number 430 Ultra Blue Middle to add some of the hairs that are on the horse's ear. That is a beautiful color. It's coming in looking very good on that ear. Now here I'm using the General White Pastel pencil to stroke on some lighter hairs, and I'm going to blend those in with my blender so they won't be too brilliant. If they're too much, then blend them out. And so I'm going back again now to the Ultra Blue Middle to add the colors. And now we're going to use the same two colors, same three colors rather. This is the Terry Ludwig eggplant. We're going to put that in this back ear. And this is the Giraud 331. I love this color. I'm going to blend that. Into that dark eggplant. And then the third color is going to be the Unison blue violet that we'll put on the outside edge. And take our little blender and blend them together. And again, we're going to use the Carbothello 430 pencil and the white, general white pastel pencil to add definition of hair on the ear. This is the 430. And then the white one. Now we're going to work on the lower part of the face of the horse. Now I'm using the sharp black new pastel to go around the bridle because I don't think that I'm going to be able to use the Terry Ludwig to get it sharp enough, and I don't want to get that Terry Ludwig dark purple color on the bridle. So that's why I'm using the new pastel. So now I'm going to take the edge of the Ludwig color. It does have a very sharp edge. You can sharpen it on your sanding block to keep it sharp. I love this color. I love Terry Ludwig pastels. Give them a try if you haven't. So I'm going to put that in that small area around the mane, and I'm going to use the Giraud blue violet to fill in that area. Blend all the colors together with your little blender. This is a little more of the Giraud to make it a little brighter. The Giraud is highly pigmented, very bright, wonderful colors. So that works really well together. Now we're going to work on the forelock of the horse. We can't see the eye, but we can kind of see the shape of the eye underneath. So I'm using the eggplant to put in the darks, avoiding the bridle that we haven't, the leather strap there that we haven't done. So I'm just working that in. I'm also rotating my colors so I can get a sharp edge to color up next to the leather. I'm using my reference photo. I always follow my reference photos. And for placement, and I'm using the Giraud. And the unison to place color, which represents the highlight, the lighter areas of the hair in between. And after you have placed the colors in, blend them with your blender. You're probably going to need a new blender by now. Maybe not. Oh, I looked at mine, need a new one. So I'm going to blend it with a new blender, blending the colors together. They're just beautiful. I'm also using a cosmetic sponge, or you can use a soft tool blender to push a little harder and blend these colors together if they don't want to move on your paper. If you need to add more color, you can, but we don't want to overwhelm with the colors because we're going to use our pencils on top. Now here I see I need a little more dark, so I'm taking the eggplant and adding a little more dark to that area. And then I will blend it. Here I'm adding the lighter color using the Giraud because it is the lightest and brightest color of the groupings that we're using. I'm just kind of stroking it in, again using my reference photo. And blending it. I am using the black new pastel to add some blacker accents. Again, you can use your Create a Color black lead or a Conte crayon. Now I'm going to use the Carbothello 430 Ultra Blue Middle Pencil to add some highlights, just like we did before. It's the perfect complement. And I will also use the General White pastel pencil to add some white accents. Now this is a Derwent pale blue. That's nice as well. But I found in creating this, I didn't use it but that once. I liked the ultra blue metal and the white, the general white pastel better. Now I'm using the same colors to draw in the mane on the right side of the face. So that would be the Terry Ludwig eggplant, the Giraud 331, and the Unison Blue Violet 16. So I'm putting in the darks with the eggplant and the middle and light colors. This is the Giraud. It's brighter, so I'm putting it in as the light color. I'm just kind of, I'm not spending a lot of time putting them in. I'm just covering that area, smoothing it out there with the, being a little more precise with the black new pastel. And that is the Unison color. It's a little grayer. And I'm putting in a little more eggplant, and then I'm going to blend it. Now we're going to add some background color before we go further so that we can draw out the hairs from the mane into the background. And for the background, I used all Richardson pastels. They're a nice brand. I am very colorful. I started with Richardson R13 pink, moving down to an orange tone, which is E022, and a yellow, and then the yellow tones of Y15 and Y1, and ending up with blues and violets. And you will find all these colors listed on your color sheet. And then I will blend them together. We'll use a clean blender. I don't want to use the blender that I used on the horse. And then this little space, you can see it, it shows where the other horse's eye is actually underneath the mane. And so I'm going to put, use one of the Richardson colors to go in there. Actually, I think it's the pink, because we was using the pink in that section. So here I am taking the Richardson pink and just coloring in that little area. The effect I want is like a rainbow. We're blending one color seamlessly into the next color. That's why there are actually two yellows and two blues, a whiter and a darker version, which helps blend these together. If you don't have any of these colors, I urge you try a few. They are very nice pastels. So I'm kind of placing them, and we'll be doing some blending with a cosmetic sponge or a bigger sponge to get them to, the look I want is a seamless blending. Now that we have a bit of our background in, I'm going back in and work on these hairs on the front of the face. Again, I can't stress enough using your reference photo. So I am carefully adding these hairs with the 430 Ultra Blue pencil, the General White Pastel pencil. I also, as you can see here, I'm using the edge of the blue, the Richardson Blue B1 to add some lighter hairs. But take your time to shape, because this creates the shape of the face, the lights over the dark areas that we put in earlier. Now to finish up these beautiful stars on the bridle. So I'm using a black Carbothello, very sharp pastel pencil to add a shadow under the star on the bridle. Then in the center, I'm using a new pastel 211 white to put a very sharp highlight, and I'm drawing around, shadowing around the center diamond with a Carbothello 726 coal gray. Now I'm also using a 210 yellow orange with a linear stroke from the inside out. Now, I like that, but I'm also going to use a Carbothello 675 French red ochre to add an orange accent to the gold stars. You may want to use a 221, which is orange for accents, but I kind of think the 675 gives more of a yellow gold look, or maybe even a little brassy look, so it's up to you. So you can see here I'm adding some black underneath, and this is the French red ochre. Actually, I ran around the center bright diamond-y area. Nope, needed a little more black there to outline it. Or you can use dark gray. It's up to you. I tried a little brown there, but I really didn't like it. I didn't continue with that. I'm going to stick with the French red ochre. So I'm going around the diamond, just putting a little accent, a little more yellow. Yeah, I like the yellow. That looks good. And darken that with black around the center. And you're going to have to kind of use the colors the way you see them and the way you like, but just out of the camera range, I am using the Derwent 240 Violet Oxide pencil to add a gray light to that area and pulling hairs into the colorful background that we already made in the last step. After I finished adding the ornament, I'm using a very sharp Carbothello 770 Payne's Gray to color the leather in the center of the bridle. Now after I get that added, I'm going to carefully take a very clean blender and blend that Payne's gray. So I'm using the clean side of the blender to get up close to the side of the leather. I'm using my black Carbothello to add a little bit of shadow under the ornament on the bridle. Now I'm using the white to add you can use a white or you can use the 720 cold gray to go down the side of the leather and add the thickness. And now I'm adding a little more yellow with the 210 orange yellow to the little ornament. So you kind of go back and forth till you get it to look exactly like you want it to. I'm putting a black edge on the left-hand side. finish the cross strap on the horse's face the same way that we did the vertical strap. I'm using a little Carbothello 430 on the bottom edge. That looks kind of nice, and some white general pastel pencil to lighten things up a bit. And white on the edge of the strap. Now, after completing the cross strap, I'm using the Derwent Violet Oxide number P240 to pull out some hair into the background. That beautiful pastel background that we made previously. So take your time, pull hair out. I really like this violet oxide color. I kind of always keep it in my toolbox or my paint box to use because it just seems to be the perfect gray tone in a lot of cases. As you can see, I'm pulling that out. Now I'm going to need to lighten some of these areas of hair. Now this is the black Create-A-Color stick I mentioned to you. It's a pastel stick. It's really good if you do not have a new pastel. And I'm going back to using my 430 Carbothello Ultra Blue Middle, pulling some hairs across the centerpiece of that bridle. And so there's a lot of hair on the front of this horse's face, so keep working back and forth with the blue and with the white until you get it just the way you want it. So after I finish adding the blue, I'm going to go back with some general white and brighten some of those areas. You will use it to cover less area than the blue. So we're not going to go over every blue hair with some white. We're just going to use the white for the brightest areas of hair. keep working over these areas of hair with the Create-A-Color black lead, which is what I had in my hand. Also the ultra blue middle Carpathello 430 and the general white pencil. And so if you get tired of drawing hair, take a break, do something else and come back to it, because it will make a difference. And study your reference photo. I can't say that enough. Now I have decided after studying my reference photo, this area needs to be lighter. So I pulled out the Giro pastel and lightened that area on the face. I'm taking the black Carpathello pastel pencil and putting in some darker black. And I'm going to use the eggplant color to come in with some even darker. Now moving over to the jaw side of the horse's face over on the left, and I'm using the Create-A-Color black lead to color in the shadow that is cast by the ornaments on the bridle. And I'm using the Terry Ludwig to also add color to that dark shadow area, avoiding the little tassels, which we'll get back to later. And it goes straight down on the side of the horse's face. And then on either side, this is the Unison blue-violet. And I'm adding some, here I'm using the Unison. And then the brighter Giro. Carefully blend everything together with your little tiny sponge. The edge of the blue into the darker black and eggplant colors. I'm using the 430 Carbocello blue pencil to blend the soft pastel together in that small area. And I'm using the little blender to even out that area of the face of the horse. This is the Create a Color Black pastel lead. I'm drawing around the area, the bridle area, and around. I'm kind of drawing in the shadow, actually darkening it and making it more distinct in that area. I'm blending that shadow. This is a 726 Carbothello cold gray 4 pencil. It's a medium gray value that I'm using in the center area of the strap that goes across the nose. So I'm using this 726 in the center of the forehead strap. And I'm going to use the 750 Carbothello black pencil to shade up in that area. If you remember, we drew a white, we used the white pastel pencil to draw a line over that, so that kind of repels dark color. I'm going to add some yellow to the little ornaments on either end of that strap. And I'm going to use white to brighten it up a little bit too, across the edges. This is the black, create a color, darken that. And what that creates with the white and the grays, it makes the strap look like it's a bit puffy. It gives it thickness because we put kind of a shine on the leather, and then we put darker black underneath, and the medium value is the gray. So I'm coloring this in with 726 Carbothello again and blending it. Now you might ask me, why are you using so many different blacks? Well, this Create a Color black is actually darker than the black, it's blacker than the black pencil. So if I just had one to pick, I guess I'd pick the Create a Color one. Now there is a shadow that falls. It's left from the braid that's above it, which we'll deal with later. But for now, we're going to just put in the shadow. And then we'll use the gray Carbothello to put in the color of the strap that's left showing. I'm going to continue working on this strap with the 726 gray Carbothello pastel pencil. I'm using the Create a Color black pastel lid to outline the leather strap. I'm using the .675 French red ochre to add accents to the brass or gold area of the bridle, and now I'm coloring that in with the 210 yellow. And I'm adding some 770 dark gray to the outside of the strap. Outlining that with the 750 black pastel pencil. That helps define the outside of it, the little brass piece, and I'm adding highlights with the white General Pastel pencil. And the white makes it shine. Outlining the edge of the leather strap that's going through, and the little white mark I put on there was like the little piece of metal that goes through the hole in the strap. Using my 726 gray to color the strap. I'm going to blend it with the blender. This is the 720 Carbothello. I'm using that to lighten the strap ever so lightly. And there is a shadow there, so I added the shadow with the black Carbothello. Now I'm going over the strap with a 726 Carbothello. Now the white that we applied earlier shows through. I'm going to blend that with a blender, and you can see the white coming through. It'll be easier for us to see where we want to put things with that. So this is the 720 Carbothello. And add some light, and then use the white General Pastel pencil to go down the edge. Use the 250 Carbothello black to add a little shadow in the little holes that adjust the strap on the horse's face. Use the white General Pastel pencil to make highlights underneath. Use the 726 Carbothello pastel pencil to color in the strap. Put shadows with the black. Or you could use a 770 Carbothello Payne's Gray. Continue working on the bottom strap with the 726 Carbothello, the 720 for highlights, the white general pencil to outline, and the black for holes and shadows. This is that beautiful color, the French ochre red, or French red ochre 675, that adds a nice tint to the gold and brass, creating the illusion. And I'm smoothing that out with the yellow, the orange yellow 210, and adding highlights with the white general pencil. Finish the bottom strap in the same way and shadow the inside with black 750. Continue working on the forelock a bit more with the white general pencil. I also used some white Carbothello pastel pencil, which is a little heavier, You could use the edge of your white Conte pencil, or Conte stick rather, that would work well. It's not necessary that you have the Carbothello pencil, but anything that you have, that adds to it. So we're just going to add a few more wispy hairs as we continue to work on this horse. We're going to work on this little braid that it's on the far left side of the bridle. And to do this, I'm going to use the black Cretacolor lead and the general white pastel lead. So I'm using the general white pastel pencil first to draw. You can see I've zoomed in on it to draw the pattern that's on the little braid first. And I'm putting in a pretty heavy application. And then I'm going to outline the white with the black. Draw careful circles around the little beads. Now, after you've drawn around the beads, take your 726 Carbothello pencil and shade over the braided strap, over the beads and over the lines you just drew. Then outline around the outsides of the strap and the beads, and use white to accent some of those areas and to put a white highlight on each bead. And use your black Cretacolor as needed to darken it. I think that looks pretty good. Draw the tassel on. That's what I forgot to add. Right down at the bottom. Draw the little tassel with the black Cretacolor and add the little threads. Then you can finish drawing the brass accent that's right underneath it. I'm going to color in the strap with 726. You can see through the hole. And then we'll add the 675 French red ochre. A little more French red ochre at the bottom, and then add your yellow 210 to finish that up, and add highlights with the white General pastel pencil. We're going to finish up this strap on the side of the horse's face with 726 Carbothello Coal Gray 4 and use the black 750 to outline, color over it a little bit, darken it down. And the Cretacolor to add the little holes. Cretacolor is a little bit darker, a little bit blacker, I should say. And then we'll use white to add the accent. And a little black accent there, the other little hole, and we'll blend that with a little blender. I'm going to use the 726 to smooth that out a little bit. Do the rest of this little strap. Now we have a little edge there on the strap, and we're going to draw that in with the white. black with the 750 Carbothello. A little bit of cast shadow there. We have a little bit of the braid sticking out also. We'll get to that. We're going to add a little cast shadow on that strap on the extreme left outside. We're going to use the 720 Carbothello. To add a little tassel that comes out of the shadow. And we'll add a little black to it. We're going to outline that bead with black and the next one. And then there's a little black tassel, so we'll put the hairs in, the threads, I should say, of the tassel with the black. And we're going to go over that with 720. And add a highlight with the white general pencil. And we're going to go take this black Cretacolor and go around these beads and add some black threads to the little tassel that's down there. And we've pretty much finished up that and come to the end of that little tassel thing. I want to thank you for joining me in part 1 of the Black Friesian. I invite you to come back for part 2, where we work some more on this horse. See you next time.